Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E. I have a very special guest. He's a fellow podcaster. He also has a doctorate in clinical psychology. Welcome to the show.
Thanks
Lino
so
Martinez.
much.
Hi,
Yeah,
brother.
thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's on my mind. How you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you doing?
I am great, man. I'm great. I get to do what I love to do, which is podcasting.
I know exactly what that feels like.
So, okay, you have a very interesting story. So
Yeah.
you suffer from a rare progressive genetic disease. Can you tell us a little something about that?
Yeah, so I was born with a rare genetic disease called Muckle-Wells syndrome. That's statistically 1 in a million. And I'm about to turn 43 in January, but I was 36 when I got diagnosed. So by the time I was 36, I mean, I'd already had gone through over 40 surgeries, and basically my life was dwindling very, very slowly. But I found the right doctors just recently, just maybe like the last 4 years. I found the right doctors, got on the right medications, and now I'm thriving instead of dying.
Awesome. That's awesome. Going through all these surgeries and all these things, I can imagine what you was going through in your head. What did you help? What it helped you to get through all this?
You know, it's such a good question because a lot of the times I feel that I surrendered to the disease and I gave into it. And because of that, it allowed me to accept it rather than fight against it. But now that and then also I became very spiritual towards the end, meaning right before I found the right doctors. Lo and behold, when you find God and you find your higher self, things are going to align for you. But before that, and now that I look back, I question myself, if I wouldn't have surrendered to the disease and found God or my spirit or my higher self earlier, would I not have suffered as much as I did? And was it wrong for me to accept it? I mean, we will never know, because accepting it also allowed me to have peace with it while I was going through it. And but I just wonder whether it was me accepting it also because I knew that once I incarnated in this life, that I had to go through this, to go through some karma cleansing in my life, soul cleansing. I'm not sure. I'll never know. And I will never know until I'm actually dead, looking back at my life, at the whole visual, the whole big picture. But what I do know now is that I'm on a wellness journey and I'm healing, and a lot of it has to do with me being able to imagine my life and what I want it to be like in the future, and just keeping love in my heart.
So one of the reasons I transitioned to live shows now is because I wanted audience participation, a little something. So I have a question from a user, a Facebook user. What does the disease do to people since it's not such a common diagnosis?
What does the disease do to people? So that's an excellent question, because the disease varies. And I've only met two other people in person, not in person, I'm sorry. I've only met two other people with this disease, one in Turkey, and this is all through Instagram. And the other one is in somewhere in Europe. I can't remember where, but I keep in touch with the one in Iran, I believe. So, and we do have some similarities. Like, we're allergic to cold. We get hives with the cold, like ice and stuff. And it causes something called amyloidosis if it's not treated. And amyloidosis is an abnormal protein buildup in the body, in all different parts of the body, in the cells and the tissues and the organs and every organ of the body. And when something like this is not treated, it starts to harden parts of the body. So, and in turn, when things start to harden, they lose its functionality. And I lost my ability to pee, for instance, by the time I was 33 years old, I had my urinary bladder removed. I'm actually going on 10 years this November, or 9 years, something like that. And it was one of the most devastating things I went through. I lost my ability to pee. And the symptoms started when I was about 26. I literally just couldn't pee. I'd sit on the toilet and I'd push and nothing would happen. It's kind of like similar symptoms to a guy with an enlarged prostate and or even bladder cancer. So I went through so many tests and so many surgeries to save that urinary bladder, but at the end, the muscles were just they were done. They weren't working. They weren't expelling urine. And when the muscles don't work, you start to have atrophy. And atrophy basically is like the thinning of the muscle. I don't know if you've seen some people in wheelchairs when they don't move their body, it's like
Just
things
yeah.
become really little. Yeah, and the same thing happens to your organs inside if they're not being used. So my bladder at the end was only holding 4 ounces of urine, and by then they're like, sorry, we can't save it. So I had a massive surgery to remove the urinary bladder along with the urethra and 33 inches of my small intestine, which is what they use to make a reservoir, a new bladder, also known as a neobladder. They use my small intestine, and my appendix as a conduit is where I catheterize through now my abdomen. So the symptoms can vary from losing your organs to even getting masses to even cancers. Like the list goes on and on and on and on and on.
Wow. And so like you said, it's a very rare disease. So the protein buildup is so big, it's so much protein buildup in it that it starts hardening those those specific areas.
Yeah, not to everybody. Even amyloidosis is just
It's
it's like a symptom of it. So sometimes
okay.
it doesn't even reach to the point where it hits or it goes into amyloidosis. But even before amyloidosis, there's just so much damage. I mean, it affects everything. I had eye surgery. Like I wasn't able to produce tears after a while because it started to mess with the I guess the way I can say is the plumbing system in my eyes. So I had to get my tear ducts cauterized closed because having them was causing more damage. So I don't produce tears normally. Yes, I can still cry, and I can still cry because we all have a lacrimal duct right up here, up by our brain, up at the top, and that secretes fluid, and that's what lubricates your eyes. So when I do get tearful or I want to cry, it causes an intense pressure in my head. So I keep my emotions at at a very minimum.
Wow, that's great. That sounds very painful. Like I can imagine. But not like you said. Now you've found God. You've become much more spiritual and everything. Now, when prior to that, how did you? Because I know I look at things like when I went through what I went through in my life, I was very self-destructive. I was self-medicating and trying to deal with it in another way. But I was angry with God because I didn't know why all these things were happening to me. And but then when I finally realized, like, listen, these are things I have no control over. This is life. I finally decided, like, okay, I know my purpose. I know that I have no control over these things, and I'm angry with God, spirit, whatever it is that you're with, that you believe in. For me, it was just like, okay, I'm good now. I started realizing a lot of the things that was happening to, like, things that I couldn't control was, I don't like I said, I couldn't control it, but the other things that I was doing to myself I could control, and those were the things that were really putting me in the bad position that I was in. And so when I finally gave myself to God, stepped back to God, and started knowing that the reason I went through these things was, like you said, karma, life, energy. These are the things I had to experience at this time. Those are the
Right.
things I had to go through in life. And if he didn't believe I could survive it, he wouldn't have put me through it. And
Exactly.
people ask me, do I regret everything that happened to me? I said I wouldn't wish it upon anyone,
Exactly. Yes.
but but it's made me the man that I am today. It's
Hmm.
helped build me into who I am today. So no, I don't regret anything it's like you said, it's life experience. This is what I'm these are the things we're here to experience. Who knows
Yes.
if it was written for you to experience this, because this is something you have to experience in this lifetime. So
Exactly.
to me, it's all life lessons. Like, people make mistakes. No, it's a lesson that needs to be learned. Now, if you keep making the same mistake over and over, it's like you're not learning from these
Right.
lessons.
Exactly. Yeah. So the biggest thing I feel that I learned from all this, when the disease was at its peak, and when I say its peak, I mean that I felt at the time that death was looming over my head. And that was because this was actually not that long ago. It was about right before the pandemic, so about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. I wear hearing aids, so I was losing my hearing, and I'd lost my voice for 2 years because the disease had caused paralysis in my vocal cords. And having paralysis of your vocal cords is extremely painful. It's painful because all the muscles in your larynx in this whole neck area work together to help you chew, to help you drink water, to help you talk, to help you breathe. Everything works in like a synchronistic fashion. So at the time, it hurt to even breathe. So I wasn't exercising and I wasn't doing anything. It hurt to even breathe. I couldn't make a sound out of my voice. I couldn't do anything, and nobody around me could understand. And there was no way for me to talk to anybody about it. People are used to Lino with an energy, Lino with stuff to say. So people were still calling me, and I'd tell them, I can't talk. I don't have a voice. It hurts to talk, but people still didn't understand. And when I had lost my voice completely, the only community I could turn to was the deaf community. So I went to sign school for 2 years, and I learned sign language. And it was in my silence when I was learning sign, and I was in front of a mirror, and I was doing my alphabets. And while I was doing that, I kind of just started to weep. And I thought, God, show me what my future is. Because at this moment, what I see, what I can feel is that the disease is taking my life. I can't pee. I have a feeding tube. I still have a feeding tube, by the way. It's taking away my ability to eat. I can't do exercise. My legs are atrophying. It hurts to even stand. Um, I can't talk. I'm going to lose my hearing. I'm going to go mute. What's the purpose of my life? Why did I even go to school? Why did I get my doctorate when I was 30? Why was I an A student? What was all of that about? I really felt there was no way out at the time. And it was within seconds that I closed my eyes and I saw my future, and I saw myself back on stage because I used to be a mariachi singer back when I had a voice. And I was like, I saw myself on stage, but this time I was doing music for the deaf. And it was in that moment that I thought, wow, that's my future. And I started crying. It was tears of happiness. And I was like, okay, now I know I have direction. Now I know where I want to, what I need to do, and where I need to go. So I'm going to continue with this journey of going through science school and meeting deaf people and seeing where life takes me. And it was shortly after that I committed my life to my unforeseen future, or foreseen future, that I met the right doctor. I got aligned with the right medication. My voice started to come back. I started to get strength. And when all that stuff started happening, I was like, well, what can I do now? And then the pandemic hit. I was like, great, here comes my voice. I have a voice now. Now I can't go out because now we're trapped indoors. What can I do? And almost all my doctors would tell me, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. You got to write a book. So I was like, geez, so that's actually what I did. I wrote a book. There's 395 pages in here. So it's the story of my life from beginning to end. And as you can see, I was actually a female at birth. So it was actually, I wrote my entire book is not only about my genetic disease, but it's also about my transition and everything that I went through, transitioning at 34 years of age. Because I was the first 34 years, I was a female, a really beautiful female. So it was really hard for my family to let go of their only daughter. It was a lot of pain that I went through. So a lot of shedding that I had to go through, a lot of my old self, a lot of the disease, a lot of the pain, a lot of the past hurt of my family not accepting me, and just living my true authentic self. And ever since then, it's been on the go and upward. I've been expanding, and I've been just spreading more love, and I couldn't be any happier than I am right now.
Awesome. That's amazing story. So you have a podcast now as well. What made you get into doing the
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah, so when my voice started to come back, and it was very painful because I actually came back one vocal cord at a time. So I was with one vocal cord for one whole year. And one vocal cord for one whole year meant that I had to push my voice to talk. There's a lot of pressure coming out. So it was a lot of pain when talking, but I knew that I needed to exercise my voice. My speech therapist said that it was safe for me to speak for 10 minutes at a time. And I thought, what a better way than how am I going to promote my book? The first thing I thought. And little did I know, I do less promoting my book and more promoting others right now. So yeah, this week I'm going to release my 108th episode in 1.5 years, which means that I have released an episode every week consistently. And now my voice is back. I've got full control of both my vocal cords. I'm working out 5 days a week. I'm thriving. I mean, I know I look young for my age, but it's because I feel that I didn't have the chance to actually get to grow and thrive, and now I'm actually thriving. So I'm having a very slow pubescent, but puberty. But here I am. I love you, my podcast. My topic is I'm booked for a year, and I'm going to be actually changing my topic to. Right now, I use my podcast to motivate people. So I interview all kinds of people in a motivational journey sense, whether it's weight loss, whether it's talking about functions of the body, and going to be changing it to life purpose coming up in the next year.
Sounds amazing. Listen, I've been podcasting just as long. I started April of 2020, and I've just released. And at
Congratulations.
first, I transitioned. I was strictly audio at one point. It was nothing like for my first 100 and I don't know. I want to say like 120 something episodes. I was strictly audio,
Mm-hmm.
probably, and then I started transitioning to video in September of last year. And just a few weeks ago, recent, probably within the last 3 4 weeks, I decided to transition to live, and it was amazing because my first episode was like 5 minutes long, and you can see
Yeah.
the growth in the podcast,
Yeah.
and that's the best feeling is like to see where you started at, and you're like you didn't know where you would. I didn't know what I was doing first of all because I'm not in the media. I wasn't in the media. I didn't do audio, video. I have still have my 9 to 5, but it had nothing to do with podcasting or any of that. But I knew I wanted to start a podcast.
Yeah.
So at first I wanted to start a sports podcast, but the friend I was going to do it with, life happened. Him and his girl got pregnant, so he didn't have it. We didn't do it. But then the pandemic hit, and I was like, you know what? Press record, and I started recording my episodes. And at first, the first few episodes were probably about being out of work and all the stuff that was going on in the world with all the defund the police, the George Floyd stuff, all a bunch of all the craziness, the stupid politics and all that. And I was enjoying doing the podcast. I just wasn't enjoying the content. So I
Mm-hmm.
switched it over to more conversation piece, and
Yeah.
that's when it started growing traction. I've had some celebrities on. I have authors, all types of people. I have a few high school friends that came on and recorded with me, and it was just us having some great conversation. And what you started to realize is that everyone has a story.
Oh yeah.
Everyone
Everyone has a story.
everyone has something they've experienced in their life, and maybe if they share their story, someone out there can hear it and be like, "Wow, this is something similar to what I'm going through. I needed to hear this." And so when I started started doing more of that, people started reaching out like, "Yo, I needed to hear that." Like I did an episode with a friend of mine. He's killing the real estate market in Brooklyn. He's amazing. He's an amazing dude, and we had a great conversation on setting goals and just building yourself up, like trying to just grow as a person, as a human, and
Right.
all that, and to enjoy life. And a friend of ours who went to school with us heard us talking about what we were doing and all the success that we were having, and they decided that they had been on the fence about starting a business.
Uh-huh.
And by hearing our conversation, they were like, you know what? Yeah, these are two guys that I know, I grew up with. If they can do what they're doing, I can do this business. And they started
Absolutely.
their business. So for me to be able to reach people and help them with whatever they're going through, because somebody might not be going through the same exact disease you have, but they might be
Right.
going through the pain and the struggle and not knowing how to deal with it. And to
Yes.
hear someone who's who still has issues, still going through, but you're in a better place now.
Yes.
You're energy wise, spiritually wise, you're in a place where like I'm not gonna let this defeat me. I'm gonna enjoy my life and do what I
Exactly.
have to do to help as many people as possible. So by them
Absolutely.
hearing your story and listening to what you went through in life, maybe they can go like, I can do this.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote my book. I mean, the my book. I mean, it talks about everything in my life, from my mother growing up, my mother an alcoholic, to my dad leaving my mother after 48 years of marriage because he cheated on her with a patient. He's a retired physician. I mean, there's a lot of controversial stuff in there, and a lot of things that I went through, growing up, and I understand that a lot of the things I talk about is not happy. My family's not happy that I wrote about it, but and I also have a chapter on forgiveness, and how I've forgiven everybody and all these people. But one advice I need to tell people if they're ever writing a story about their life is that you don't expect everyone to love your book. There's going to be some people who are going to be like, why'd you say that? Or why'd you say that about me? Even if you use an alias name, they're still going to be upset about it. And the thing that I got to say is don't have any fear about it, because again, you never know whose life you're touching. Somebody can be like in that same situation and feel so lonely, but if they read someone else's story, it's going to make such an incredible impact. And it's like, I really wish that my family would be a little more accepting and loving, that and keep, just keep an open heart. But you can't control people's feelings, but you can control your own actions. And my own actions have proven that I come from a place of love, and I'm doing this out of my love for humanity.
And yeah, you can't control the way other people's feel, and that's the problem is we expect people to feel a certain way when listen that they're gonna feel how they feel. The only thing you can control is how you feel and how
Right.
you deal with the situation. And a lot of the time we let it affect us. We let how people feel about us and talk about us to affect us, because then we start believing what they're saying, and that's the furthest from the truth. Is what you feel inside. It's how you feel and how you want to like people. We're too worried about other people's opinions of us of us,
Totally.
and we need to get realize like, listen, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. I'm gonna do what I want to do and be successful. Like people, like, you imagine people hearing. Like I started my podcast when I was 44 years old. You can imagine people like, oh, you're 44. Why would you want to start a podcast? You're like,
Right.
oh, like because I want to start a podcast. I found something that I enjoy doing. What does my age has to do with any of it?
Has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. But my wife has been very supportive. She sees that I'm passionate about it. She supports me. It's to me, she's like, listen, I see how dedicated you are. I see how what you're doing is good, and I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, you have a great voice. You definitely have a great voice.
So it's fun like I said, I love to do it. It's finding what I'm passionate about. It's a blessing to be able to
It
do
really is.
this. So I wish everyone could find something what find something that they love to do. And that's listen, I don't knock anybody who has a job. I
Right.
still I still work my 9 to 5, but I'm also doing this. I'm building my production company, doing all these other things for eventually, yeah, I can retire my job and hope and do this full time and create content full time and make it a business.
Yeah, you will. Keep imagining that in your future, and you have no choice but to meet it.
Oh, listen, it's some great things are happening, man. Things have fallen into place. It's the networking that I'm doing with podcasting. When you start putting out that positive energy, you start being yourself and everybody sees who you are, good things happen.
Absolutely.
When you start supporting other people, they start supporting you back.
Yeah,
People,
that's for sure.
it's a great feeling to be able to say that I've made some amazing friends podcasting. People
Yes,
that have faith and see the potential in me and push me and support me and like, bro, you got this. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. Like to receive those messages from friends is amazing.
it really is. Yeah, I love that part. Absolutely love it.
So you say what? So how you're changing the format of your pod or the topic
Yeah,
of
you know
it?
what? We're actually right now. I was actually gonna ask you, because I had some thoughts. Because the only time I go live once a month, with this psychic named Stofan, we do oracle card readings and mediumship, and I
Yeah.
love doing live. And I always wanted to do like live radio, but I'm like, well, why do live radio when we could do live video? But I guess I have some questions. Maybe I can ask you afterwards when we're done.
Uh, and
I just
yeah, I don't. Yeah, listen. To me, going live was one of the best decisions I've made as far as content create. Because, like I said, I get to interact with the audience. They I have some people that been following me since the audio podcast, and to still have them to come support me and share my content and come in and chime in, that's the best feeling because it gives
Yeah.
me, to me, I feel like it makes them feel like it's their show as well.
Oh yeah.
I want them to know, hey, this is your show as well. You make this show. So
Oh
to
yeah.
be able to come on and interact, it gives them an opportunity to really be a part of the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Thank you.
It's it's crazy because it's the reason I did it is really what really pushed me to really go into it was I have a friend Brian Snow. Big shout out to him. He has a sports talk show that he does Monday through Friday, and I've been on there a couple of times. We have a great time, and it gives me opportunity to talk about sports, which I love to talk about. And so he was going under the knife for cancer and all that, and he needed someone to co-host with with my other boy Cole Johnson, who who's the executive producer and also co-host. He's like, yo, can you come in and sit down and do the show with him for a while? Like at that time, I was off Sunday, Mondays, so I could only do it Mondays. So at work, they switched my job, my days, so now I'm able to do it Thursdays and Fridays, and whenever I get out of work early and get to the show on time. But they do it live, and the audience interaction is amazing. I've seen the growth of the audience, and I've seen people come in, new people come in asking questions, enjoying the show, and that was like, man, I enjoyed this so much. I'm gonna implement the live into my show because I
Yeah, I
want that
love that.
interaction. I want that interaction in my show,
Yeah.
and so to be able to have the honor to do his show and start learning on how to do live shows, it just was like I said, it was just a no brainer. It was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go live, have my guests come on to other story talk, and have a great conversation. And if people have questions to ask, they can ask them.
Sure.
So the book,
Yes.
how long did it take you to write it?
Not that long. I think I was done writing it maybe 12 weeks. It took me to write it. But what took long was the editing and getting the formatting right, and just it was just a pain in the butt. Doing that took like a whole year. Really, writing it, to me, for me, writing has always come easy for me since I was a kid. It's just one of my natural born gifts. But everything else was a pain in the butt. So I don't really do much promoting myself. I mean, I'm a one man show. It's kind of hard to promote a book and promote a show, and then
I don't.
be catheterizing every 3 hours and feeding, and and I'll have all these other things and meditate, and yeah,
I gotta
it's yeah, it's beyond a
be,
having various disabilities is a 24/7 job, so it gets a little tricky. But I'm gonna actually start a Patreon hopefully by the end of this month, to be a life purpose counselor. So and when I say hopefully, meaning it's just I'm hoping it'll launch at the end of the month. That's what I mean by that.
okay, because you
It's
are
already
gonna be one.
ready.
Because
It's already set and
yeah, it's
ready.
already
I
done.
just have to be
Yes.
mentally ready. What's that?
I said no, because you got this. You're gonna. It's gonna be great. You'll be fine at that, man. I understand what you mean by hopefully. Things happen and you have to
Yeah.
push and delay things, but it's gonna happen. You have the right energy, you have the right mindset. It's definitely gonna happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's listen. It's for me. Is definitely. I know that the changing in mindset shifts things,
Oh
and
yeah.
to go from where I was at to where I'm at now. It took that. It took the growth and development and seeking help because especially in the black and brown communities, it's not something we're taught. We're not, oh, like you have to be strong. You can't. People make fun of you actually, like, oh, you seeing a therapist? You seeing, oh, there's something wrong with you, like you crazy or something. So
Right.
to be able now to talk about it and let people know, listen, if you're going whatever struggles you're going through, it's okay to seek help. It's okay
Yeah.
to speak to someone to help you through whatever you're going through. Some people need coaching. Some people need mentorship. Find it in what makes you feel comfortable. You don't necessarily have to go a therapist or whatever. Sometimes it's a mentor you might need. You might need someone to help you, encourage you to push you. Because I've I've been blessed that some of the people that I've met have have willingly decided to mentor me, and they
That's
like
awesome.
sometimes they charge people thousands of dollars, but for them to be waste, just for them to give me the time and just like, yo, listen, I see something in you. You here you go. Let's come just work with me. And so I've been blessed in that manner. So I'm always thankful and appreciative of what they're doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also change the I actually using the word counseling because I noticed that too many people are coaches, and I think I'm not really sure why coach became such a popular word, but my intuition feels that people may have changed it from counseling to coaching because coaching just sounds a little more like go coach,
Less taboo,
kind
yeah.
of.
Less taboo. Less a little bit less like, oh, you want to counsel? It
Yeah.
sounds different when you say, yeah, I got a coach. Where
Yeah,
instead of
so but I want to take
more
that
to a
stigma
counselor.
away, So that's why I went
Yes.
back to counseling. I was like, what's wrong with counseling? Like, stop being so negative about everything. There's
No,
actually a really beautiful thing.
but
So
that's what I'm saying. It is shifting now where
it is. Yeah,
it's acceptable to say that
exactly.
you're seeking counseling, you're seeking help. So that's why
Yeah.
it's one of the things that I talk about on my podcast is seeking help. Like if you need someone to communicate with, you need some help, it's okay to ask. It's like for years it was like, no, you can't ask for help. You have to. Nah, it's okay to show that you need help. Everyone
Yeah, I
needs
also
help
want
once in a while.
audience to know that it's also okay to ask like God. It's okay to ask your spirit guides. It's okay to ask your angels. Like I
Mhm.
barely learned this stuff this year. It's like, what do you mean I can ask angels for help? What are you saying? Spirit guides? What? All this stuff was brand new for me. Like I just always thought, well, I've got my therapist and now I have God. But I'm like, hang on a minute. Well, I started learning about spirit guides and all the other ways to be helped because there's the unseen world that
And
we only see in this dimension, but they're up. I mean, they're up beneath us, lifting us up, and if they want us to ask for help, I
it's
mean,
it's
just think
it's
about
all
it.
it's all energy. Everything, it's all energy.
Yeah,
It's all, and in order for that energy you have to put it out there and be ready to
yep,
accept it. Because
yeah,
if your vibration is off, you're not.
totally.
It's not gonna hit you. You're not gonna get it. You're gonna completely miss it. So it's all about energy, and I'm a
There
big
is.
big guy on. I know what the process. I know because I know when once I switched my energy from the from where I was at, things shifted, and
Yes,
things shifted to in the other in the direction it was supposed to because of the shift in my energy.
right.
So yeah, it's something I talk about it. Or I'll talk about spiritual. Like I'm not a religious person per se, but I am a spiritual person. I do believe in the higher
Totally.
spirit. I do believe in God and all that. So I don't have to necessarily be in a set religion to be able to speak to God or speak to spirit or whoever it
Oh yeah,
is that
nobody
I
has to. Yeah,
to me it's that is more of a way of controlling us. It's just the way of everything working to have people divided. So for me it's like whatever you believe in, that's you. That's great. I respect that, but I'm gonna believe what I believe in.
right. Yeah, definitely. And it's
Definitely.
important to believe in something though, because when you don't, that's really when you're lost.
Yeah. And like I said, when I was angry with spirit, and things weren't going right. Things were just not, and not just everything was just bad. Like couldn't keep some place to stay. I would lose jobs constantly, and it took some time to get out of that. And it took me time to build myself up and finally realize it was time to move on.
Good. I'm glad you got out of that.
Oh man,
Definitely.
it's life, man. It's life lessons. Everyone has a story. My story's not better than anyone. It's just my story. It's just like I just feel like everyone just needs to be able to. Sometimes they just need to be able to tell their story, and share it, and it does wonders for people just to be able to like, oh man, I was able to get that off my chest, and
Yeah, well, and actually, now that you say that, I want to share the reason why it's important to get it out. And I'm learning all this from this incredible book that I'm reading called Eastern Body, Western Mind. And it talks about the chakras in the system and the chakra system in your body and the parts of your body that's affected if there's energy trapped in that chakra. So if people don't talk and people don't let things out, it's the energy gets stagnant in the throat chakra, and people can get cancers of the throat. People can get tumors. People can get vocal cord paralysis. People can get all kinds of stuff. Disease forms in parts of the body where there's stagnant negative energy. So once there's an actual flow and you let it out, that you're going to allow things that were in dis-ease to become more at ease.
Absolutely. Definitely. Lino, it's been great, man. I've had a great time chatting with you, but
me too. Thank you.
It's time for you to promote, let everybody know where they can find your book at, where they can find you at, where they can find the podcast, everything.
So yeah, it's called The Little Less Fear Podcast, and it's available on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Buzzsprout, pretty much all audio platforms. And my book is on Amazon and also Kindle, and now Kindle Limited. And you can also check me out if you have any other questions, you want to know where to follow me. All of my links are at www.alittlelessfear.com. And you can also email me at alittlelessfear@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Don't leave yet, because we are going to chat, like you said, a little
all right,
bit
great.
there.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing.
I love having you on, man. You had a great story. Definitely check out his podcast, A Little Less Fear. Support him. Share it, like it, subscribe. Definitely let's get those numbers up for him. And I appreciate you, but again, don't leave just yet. All right.
Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, now, so it is now shout out time. Big shout out to my Real Wise fan, Bobby J, Brandy J, love you guys. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. Tony Cass, thank you for coming through and showing some love, brother. You're always supporting. Big shout out to Snowman in the Morning, Brian Snow with Cole Johnson. Big shout out to my two brothers, man. They're always supporting me. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Love you, baby, and appreciate you. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at @wise_b_blunt, Instagram at @wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.